Welcome to the Bill Mason Show. This is Mason. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing, I guess, as best as any American can at this point. It's our Tuesday show, and we are still talking about the civil unrest in the United States, and how the people that have started this, how are they going to end it? How
Hmm.
does this end? Does it eventually end? Do we eventually not have civil unrest? Do we get to a point where we function again as a country? That's what I'm wondering.
Oh, they want to defund the police. So I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I honestly don't see that as a plus column thing that I would be running on right now. I mean, I know the polling numbers are dismal, like maybe 3 or 4% of
Hmm.
the polled people polled support it. It's ridiculous.
That's crazy. So tonight we're going to talk about defunding the police. We have great videos of what's going to happen later on. We have the mayor of Chicago. We have a conference call that was leaked, and it is phenomenal. So that's going to be
Yeah,
later on.
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So that's going to be later on the show. We have Biden on the View. So
Yeah, it's great.
it is.
Oh man, it's great.
Yeah, so he gives a great answer. So
Yeah.
we're going to take a look at that. It's very funny. We have the Webster police chief rolling around and begging for his life. What is going
Yeah.
on?
Very, very submissive police chief. Very, very virtue signaling, pandering. Unbelievable, man.
So we have that. We're going to show the video of that. It's unbelievable. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we moved into another dimension or what's going on in 2020, but this is unreal.
We need a DeLorean. We need to go back to 1955
Hmm.
and fix the timeline because something here is not working.
Something went wrong, yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to go for a commercial break and we'll be right back.
All right.
And we're going to talk about all these things, okay?
Do you experience ongoing severe depression, headaches, long bouts of uncontrollable crying? Have you tried therapy? You may suffer from TDS. Trump derangement syndrome is a serious illness that attacks the central nervous system. It can lead to public embarrassment, extreme rage, sometimes even violence. TDS is made worse by consuming fake news media from corporations such as NPR and CNN. But you're not alone. TDS affects over half of Democrats and nearly 99% of leftists. Doctors are beginning to understand the illness. TDS interferes with the areas of the brain that are responsible for rational thinking and that regulate appropriate emotional responses. With this knowledge, scientists have innovated a new treatment for TDS. Introducing Trump Zolta. Trump Zolta is the only known treatment for TDS. If others have mentioned that you may have TDS, you can speak with your doctor to see if Trump Zolta is right for you. Become you again. Trump Zolta is not right for everyone. Some common side effects are hallucinations, clinical insanity, stomach cramps, and rapid onset explosive diarrhea. Ask your doctor about Trump Zolta.
Battle for liberty. This is the Bill Mason Show.
There we go. Thanks for joining us here at the Bill Mason Show.
Here we are.
Yes, so we have a lot to talk about. Again, defunding the police. What are your thoughts, Bill?
My thoughts are that is something that I can't even entertain for 1 minute, because there is not a time where I have ever drove through a city and thought like, oh wow, this is a city that doesn't have any police.
Right.
And this is America. Like the two things will never connect for me, because America has always had a police force, and this incident that's happened, it's like the weirdest response you could ask for. It's like, if the fire department couldn't save a building from burning down to like take away the fireman's hoses or something. It's just, there's something there that just doesn't compute with me. And just because this happened doesn't mean I want to live in a world where I dial 911 and there's nobody on the other end that can help me. I mean, that's just chaos.
They might go ahead and defund the police, the fire department, the ambulances, and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
this is like crazy clown world. It doesn't make any sense, and it's weird. It's almost like I was, I'm watching the news, the regular local news and whatever, and it's like, it rhymes, so they just repeat it. They go, no justice, no peace, defund the police, and I'm just like, man, I can't imagine.
Great.
It's a great. It would make a great song, maybe, but I mean, in reality, it's tragedy. It's terrible.
That is terrible. I mean, it's sad it happened to George Floyd. I mean, that should have never happened to anybody. When you get arrested, you don't expect to be killed, but we don't go to this extreme. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's such a far end of extreme. I mean, to even touch on what they're talking about instead of the police, it's called an intervention force, the IF. And the intervention force, based on your 911 call, will dispatch either a drug and alcohol counselor, maybe a family preservation person, or maybe someone who's some sort of family counselor or something like that. And the thing that struck me is when they talked about that, I said, now, if I went to school for 4 years and I came out as like a family psychologist, I'm not responding to a 911 call. I didn't sign up for that. Who are these people that they're going to get, that they're going to be like, oh, Dr. Smith, there's a 911 call on 3rd Avenue. There's a family in trouble. They need you. I mean, Dr. Smith is going to be like, are you kidding me? I'm not going
when he goes over there. He knocks on the door.
This is unbelievable that they automatically assume that there is these people that are, listen, drug and alcohol counselors and family preservation people are necessary, but there's like a separation of powers. So like the police respond, and then they assess the situation. And then from there, you have this other agency. Okay, we need family preservation services, or we need drug and alcohol counseling, or we need, maybe a psychological evaluation of this person, but I mean, you still need the police. And like Keith Ellison, oh my God, they were talking about if Biden gets elected, he could be attorney general. I mean, this guy's a loony. He says that the fact that cops have guns is they are ready to use deadly force as a first measure. Now, if that was the case, so I did some number crunching the other day, so close to like 5 million interactions with police. If that was the case, that they use their gun every time, we'd have a hell of a lot more deaths. There'd be a lot of people dead.
Right, a lot of people dead.
So the numbers don't support what they're talking about, that arming cops and cops having guns and cops having AR-15s in their squad cars, because there are towns, and I know we're going to touch on this tonight, like Chicago, where these people are saying, dude, I have gangbangers with AK-47s out here waiting for something to happen. Like, you can't have unarmed cops. You will lose control.
You definitely lose control. We're gonna show that in a minute. it was a conference call between a councilman and the mayor. But we're going to show what happens when you defund the police. This is a little
Yeah.
commercial. Take a look at this.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
That's what happens.
Can you imagine?
You call 911, you get anybody.
Or like, you know, I heard a couple of people making fun of it in different scenarios. You know, you call 911. Oh, what's your emergency?
Mhm.
Oh my God, there's a lunatic outside my house or whatever, and be like, well, let's see, we have a therapist, a family preservation officer, we have a psychiatrist. Will any of those help you? No, I need a badass cop with a gun right now. So, I mean, honestly, like, we don't live in a society where, you know, the officers that, you know, there I go, I'm disappearing. But the officers that we have to respond to a variety of things. So like they never know, but the gun has to be part of their toolbox, you know, and to disarm and defund them is crazy.
That would be crazy. You look like the Invisible Man there, Bill.
Yeah, I know. I don't get it. There it is.
There you go. All right, we're going to play the Chicago mayor call so you can reappear when we come back.
All right.
This is earth-shattering. Take a look at this.
All right.
We can't expect our police, and I don't fault them at all, to be able to control this. But I know that we asked our faith base yesterday to stand at the front line between police and looters and rioters. And I am simply not comfortable telling my churches, those people, to be the intermediary in the middle of a riot that's citywide. We need something better, because right now we only have 370 whatever National Guards on standby. Half our neighborhoods are already obliterated. It's too late. We have to come up with a better plan, because my fear is once they're done looting and rioting and whatever's going to happen tonight, God help us, what happens when they start going after residents, going into the neighborhoods? Once they start trying to break down people's doors so they think they got something, or, you know, we know that people are here to antagonize and incite, and you've got them all pumped today, they're not going to go to bed at 8 o'clock. They're going to turn their focus in the neighborhoods. I've got gangbangers with AK-47s walking around right now, just waiting to settle some scores. What are we going to do, and what do we tell our residents other than good faith people stand up? It's not going to be enough.
Thank you, Alderman. Next question.
Well, no, I want an answer. You commented on everybody. I want an answer. It's not something you ignore. This is a question that I have.
I think you're 100%. I think you're 100% full of shit. Is what I think. If you think
no offense, well, fuck you then.
Hold on.
Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit?
And if you think we were not ready and we stood by and let the neighborhood go up, there's nothing intelligent that I can say to you.
Well, maybe you should come out and see what's going on.
This is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. I understand you want to preen. I understand that you think that you...
Mayor, you need to check your fucking attitude. That's what you need to do.
Every single person
Right now, no. You need to check your attitude.
Wow, there it is. So they are both Democrats, by the way. None of them are Republicans, fighting back and forth about the control of their city.
Yeah, and the craziest thing is for the mayor to tell this guy he's I guess they call it an alderman in Illinois. Like some states have weird names for basically like a city councilman, or like some people call him an ombudsman or an alderman or something like that. But anyway, he's basically a city council member in the ward where they had like 21 murders. I mean, like, he's crying for help, and the Democratic mayor is like, yeah, you know what we need to do? Defund the police. I mean, it's just nonsense.
It's crazy. I don't know. So Mayor Lightfoot didn't have a clue what's going on in Chicago.
No.
So we're going to take a look right now of a supporter for what's going on in this world. So let's take a look and see what he said.
Okay.
These white people on the left, and they've been doing this, but all of a sudden they, are supporting the black plight. This is all to get as many numbers as they can on their side to fight this civil war that they're planning out, that they're already being prepared for. You're going to have to choose a side. Don't set yourself up to get slaughtered. This is all a big setup. It's huge propaganda. The biggest propaganda that could be happening right now. And what I want people to understand and understand is that we got to put the race thing to the side right now. We have to put it to the side because we have to understand what's going on and what's important. And the reason why it's so important on black people, because I know black people are like, okay, the left versus the right, what does that have to do with us? Because the people on the left are trying to use us. The people on the left are using us. The Democratic Party are using black people to fight their war with Antifa, with it's getting very, very deep. If you don't know who Antifa is, look Antifa up. Basically a terrorist group. I don't know what people's belief system is. You can call them what you want to call them, but they're basically like a militant group, and they're anti-fascist. That's what Antifa stands for. It stands for anti-fascist. And with that being said, this group is being paid for by, you guessed it, the younger Rothschilds, the Clintons, and the Soros.
There we go. So the one person actually gets it.
And you know what? Like I said, we talked about last show. If anybody missed, last show was great too. We had another guy just totally awake, put it in perspective, and nailed it. This guy is on the line too because he realizes that the black community is right now being hijacked by these activist types. Mm-hmm. And one of the other things that they're starting to notice, some of the people in the black communities are saying, we would have never threw rocks through, this restaurant, or we would have never burned this place. Antifa did that. So, I mean, this is when you start to see that the minority-owned businesses are being burned to the ground and damaged and looted because the people that live there locally know that, no, we weren't going to target them. We were going to let them go. I don't know why their windows are busted or whatever. And now they're starting to feel like they're being used and hijacked by this movement. And for a total, upheaval movement, like you've seen it throughout history, like in Italy, like they had the black shirts. And I think Hitler had the brown shirts. And they were like this militant group of street thugs that just went around and caused upheaval. When Hitler needed Jewish businesses, smashed up and broken down or whatever, he sent in, the brown shirts, and they went in and they wreaked havoc, and they were paid for it. And this way there was a disconnect. So what the Democratic Party has created is, oh, well, we have nothing to do with them. They may have the same views as us, but we have nothing to do with them. Right. They're just crazy. But they're doing the agenda that the Democratic Party needs to do, which is destroy everything that works in this country. Like the argument of dismantling the police and stuff like that. Actually, the black community will be hurt the worst without police. There are people that live in Beverly Hills right now that are rah-rahing this defund the police movement. But in Beverly Hills, they have private security. They don't worry about what the people in Chicago, Illinois worry about, or the people in St. Louis, Missouri worry about. It's a totally different perspective for those people. And I think some of the black people are waking up and they're kind of going, wait a minute, I don't think this guy's on our side.
No, they're not.
I think that's what maybe scares the Democrats. So and also this state of emergency that they have to keep it going. Like today, George Floyd's funeral was on every channel. You know, it was an amazing funeral, and I heard some people saying like, "Hey, listen, my mom died from coronavirus. I had to bury her like by myself. I couldn't have this big funeral. Like, what changed?" And the thing is that everybody piggybacked on this Floyd funeral. There was horse-drawn buggies. It was almost like equivalent to like John F. Kennedy. It was a really big deal, and it was on all the major news channels because this is the piggyback. This is how the Democrats are going to say, like, "Oh man, it's this tragedy. We can't let A, B, and C and D continue because of this." And they're literally peeling back the layers of everything that worked. And I mean, because you have one isolated incident, you're just going to destroy everything. You know, it's like we had that other guy, you know, from Last Show talking about like, listen, America is a boat. It has to float. You know, you can't take a tiny hole and just be like, "Oh man, we got to just sink the ship and start over." I mean, there's so much to lose and so little to gain by what they're talking about. This plan to defund police and do all this nonsense. I mean, where does it end? You just have terrible cities.
It just won't end. This is like endless. So they don't want to give up. So let's take a look at. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say real quick. There are people now that are also in the Black community that have spoken up. You know, and they've been speaking up for a long time. Like, for example, I know we have a Candace Owen video. I don't know if you were going to go to that next, but she has been one that everybody in the Democratic Party is highly fearful of. They are scared to death of her because the minute she speaks, she makes a hell of a lot of sense. And she started the Blexit movement, which was like, you know, something that everybody laughed at. And now every city that it goes to, pre-coronavirus, by the way, she had so much momentum before the coronavirus that they were worried about that. Just like the Trump rallies. I mean, there were hundreds of thousands of people showing up at Trump rallies. They had hundreds of thousands of people showing up at the Blexit movement as well. So, I mean, these things that the Democrats do, I mean, the riots and, you know, I'm not saying, you know, the coronavirus wasn't real because I know people died from it, but the whole fear, the pandemic, the lockdowns, the people in, you know, places that had no cases that are locked down. I mean, all of that stuff was to squash stuff like this, like Blexit and Trump rallies, because Trump could have said, okay, I won't go to New York City, but I will go to Nebraska, you know, and they're like, no, the whole country has to lock down. So, I mean, they really pulled off a hoodwink on America, you know, and that's what some of the Black people are starting to understand, which is good for everyone.
Yeah, because, you know, employment was up, Black employment was great, unemployment was low, unemployment was low throughout the country, economy was doing great, and all of a sudden the lockdowns happened.
Right, and Trump's plan was to, you know, the one thing that transcends like racism, right? When you financially get to a point where you didn't think you could get to, and now you can become a homeowner and you can move somewhere where you never thought you could live, and you know, these little steps that happen to you, they not only change the way you think because you think of more of a future, okay, but they also change the way you vote. And they had to destroy that because it was working. Everything that Trump was doing was working. Like, he was turning people that maybe never had hope, never had a way to achieve anything, to getting better jobs and making positive movements in their life. And they were like, how do we blow this up? I mean, here we are, and we're talking about it.
Yeah, so that's what happened. So, I mean, so again, that last supporter talked about Antifa. We have a Project Veritas video that's going to talk about the insides of Antifa and a militant arm of Antifa. It's called the Redneck Revolt, I think it's called.
Yes. Yeah, Redneck Revolt, and that's another thing that Antifa does. You know, they try to paint themselves as, oh, if we call ourselves Redneck Revolt, we'll get a bunch of right-wing people, you know, to come into our movement and then boom, we got them. Like now we can, tell them what to do. And it's really about using people and using the trigger points, like a lot of people, that consider themselves rednecks are like, don't touch my guns. Don't touch my guns, so they get in there and they say, oh man, these people are going to come for your guns, they're going to kick your door down, you better be ready. Just like they're doing to black people right now. They're like, oh man, these cops are all going to kick your ass and we got to get rid of them. I mean, they're playing people like violins.
Oh, they are. So, of course, the Redneck Revolt has nothing to do with conservatism. It's all
No, it doesn't.
All on the left. So let's take a look at this.
Yeah.
Redneck Revolt came across our radar in early 2018. We had seen some articles online about them and saw that they were sort of the militia wing of Antifa, also called the John Brown Gun Club. I reached out to the chapter in Shelby, North Carolina over Facebook Messenger, and I received a reply right away. They are Antifa in that they share the Antifa ideology. This particular group sees themselves as armed revolutionaries, and they believe in total abolition of everything, including the police. Once we were finished shooting, they needed to interview me. This was part of my initiation.
If an officer of the state came to your door and asked you questions about your political ideology and people you associate with, how would you respond?
I would say no.
If you were tabling at a gun show and someone loudly accused you of being a terrorist or part of Antifa, how would you handle it?
I probably would laugh.
So Redneck Revolt came across our radar in early 2018. We had seen some articles online about them and saw that they were sort of the militia wing of Antifa, also called the John Brown Gun Club. I reached out to the chapter in Shelby, North Carolina over Facebook Messenger, and I received a reply right away from the leader. His name was Paul Ditz.
She's asking questions about the NRA.
Well, we're the wrong people to ask about the NRA.
Are you a member of the NRA?
Hell no.
No?
I hate the NRA. Really? The NRA is a white supremacist terrorist organization. Absolutely.
Can I quote you?
Yes.
They are Antifa in that they share the Antifa ideology, and it can be shared by many different groups. Typically, Antifa that you see on TV are the ones that are dressed in all black, and they go and they throw rocks or bricks and start trouble. This particular group sees themselves as armed revolutionaries. They're all about the working class, so they share this communist, anarchist ideals that the working class should run the country with no government. And they believe in total abolition of everything, including the police. Charlottesville was comprised of your typical Antifa black bloc measures. There were also Black Lives Matter. There were multiple chapters of Redneck Revolt that went to Charlottesville and acted as the militia wing of the anti-fascist movement. One of their missions is to arm minorities. They feel that Black Americans and minorities are disenfranchised by gun laws and permit fees. I would say probably around the third time that I met with them, they invited me to go to the gun range with them for what they called range night.
This is semi.
Okay.
That means semi-automatic.
Okay.
One shot for one trigger pull. Kind of have one foot back. And this arm, you want to have both arms straight.
Going to the gun range with Redneck Revolt was especially stressful and scary because A, they had guns, and B, I was wired with a camera. So the entire time that I was there at the gun range, especially while we were shooting guns, I was constantly worried that something would come unattached or a wire would show. So I had to just be very careful about how I was wired up that night. Once we were finished shooting, they turned to me and told me that they needed to interview me, and that this was part of my initiation, as part of my probationary period. They basically led me out back of the gun range, and we sat outside where they asked me various questions about my ideology.
If an officer of the state came to your door and asked you questions about your political ideology and people you associate with, how would you respond?
An officer of the state, like who? Like,
It could be.
if they came to my door and asked me about my political...
If they said, do you know Clyde and Millie? And can you tell us about the political work that you do?
Oh.
How would you respond about that?
I would say no. For one thing, I think if they came to my door, they would have to have a warrant in the first place, wouldn't they? And especially
Well,
just...
Maybe
yeah.
not.
Well, especially to start asking random questions like that. Yeah, I mean, I would be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I would just say no and probably not say much else. I mean, I've been taught, like, you don't talk to cops. I mean, I don't agree with, like, going and shooting police or anything like that. Or, like, hunting them down and whatever. But, yeah, like, I just think, like...
We're an above ground organization.
Yeah. So
if you want to do
right.
it, you have to do it in your own time.
Oh, no.
You can't talk to us about it either. Or if you do it and we find out about it, we're going to have to kick you out of the group.
Oh, no.
In a hypothetical situation at a gun show, if you were tabling at a gun show and someone loudly accused you of being a terrorist or part of Antifa, how would you handle it?
Like if someone said it to me directly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And someone's being directly confrontational with you in a crowd.
And they said I was a terrorist?
Yeah, part of Antifa.
You're an Antifa super soldier and you're going to... You kill babies. George Soros is paying you to attack the government, and you're getting
right.
Hillary Clinton.
I probably would laugh.
So their heroes were people like John Brown and Harriet Tubman. One of the first meetings I went to was really interesting because they were handing out coloring books that they made for children. It's got, some illustrations of Harriet Tubman, John Brown, and some other people like that. While I was in North Carolina, in the Charlotte area, one other thing that I was doing on the side was I was working as a volunteer in some campaigns. Initially, when Redneck Revolt found out that I was volunteering, they were okay with it because the candidate was my friend. After I had been in the group for a few months, I had already passed the probationary membership. They had already voted me in as a member. They confronted me over Signal, which is what they use for their communications. They confronted me with the fact that I had Facebook posts in support of a candidate for sheriff. And that's where they said to me, that's where we fundamentally disagree. We don't believe in reform of any kind. We believe in complete abolition of the system itself, including police. So that was a major issue, and they ended up telling me that they had a lot of concerns. The words they used were they had security concerns about me and that I should not come back to the meetings again.
Oh, there you go. So that's where all this come from. I mean, look, this has been their plot for all along. Defunded the police.
Yeah, and like we talked about before, they have this like weird biker gang way of initiating people, and they probably got a feeling that she wasn't crazy enough because they really don't want people that have like that normal line where they say, "Hey, listen, I don't like how things are, but I want it to get back to normal," and they're like, "No. There is no normal. Everything must be blown up and torched and burnt and destroyed." Like, these people want the absolute worst anarchist they could possibly get.
Right.
And the fact that, like she said in the interview, that they were at Charlottesville and they were the ones that were, wearing the the armor plating and stuff like that. Like, people perceive that as those guys are NRA members. They're carrying guns and they're wearing body armor. Those guys are the right wing.
Right.
But they're like impersonating it. Like, that's what I was trying to get to, that when people like this walk around with AR-15s and they wear body armor and they have, like a red handkerchief on, they go, oh, that red must mean Republican, and those guys are right wing. But meanwhile, they're Antifa. So, like, they're
but you can tell, actually. You can tell.
Oh, I can tell.
Yeah, you can just look at them. You can tell they're leftists.
Your basic everyday CNN viewer looks at people that hold guns with confidence and they say they must be right-wing guys. So, I want to say that they're masters of impersonation,
right.
At Antifa, where they try to find the disenfranchised, the people that really feel like there's no hope, and they just build on that, So, I mean, is there more of them? Yeah, there's a scary amount of Antifa types out there. I want to say every major city probably has a chapter, and now you see Charlotte, North Carolina, the outskirts of North Carolina. I mean, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, yeah. All right, well, we're going to go with some more craziness. We're going to look at the police chief in Webster, Massachusetts.
Webster, Mass, yeah.
So, I mean, what is he doing?
Apparently, he's submitting to the crowd. He's basically showing the crowd that we're not going to ever establish order. I submit to you. I'm going to lay on my face. I'm going to put my hands behind my back. And, and the crowd, almost like what they did to the mayor of Minneapolis, after he did his little stunt, his little pandering, they basically said, that's not enough, but it's a start. And he doesn't realize.
He had to leave.
Yeah, he doesn't realize that that's not going to work.
Yeah, I should have had that on tonight, the video. I apologize, listeners. So we'll have it on for next night.
But we could play it at any time, because actually he keeps trying to interact. Right. He keeps showing up like. And here's the other thing that I heard. I'm a big fan of Mark Levin. He doesn't show up dressed like a mayor. He doesn't wear like attire like a mayor would. He wears like a ripped up t-shirt and jeans.
Right.
He's trying to like blend in and be like, I'm the cool mayor. And they're like, no, you're not. Right. You're not that cool, dude.
Well, let's take a look at the police chief, see what he did, okay?
Yeah. He's another one.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. It's not enough, but it's a start.
Oh my God.
They're laughing at him. Honestly, like, what a joke. I mean, you have to have a line where, you establish some kind of order. And when you have the chief of police of your town and he's doing that, if I was an officer and I had to go out and try to maintain order, I'd be shaking my head going, what is this guy doing?
No.
Because it's just not the way you do it.
If he did that, if I was a policeman, I would have to quit.
Yeah. And I mean, not that, to go off on a tangent, but New York City's actually having a problem right now. So many guys are filing for retirement because they're like, whatever your plan is for New York City, it's not going to work, and we're not a part of it. And the last report, I mean, it is a tweet or whatever, but I mean, close to 400 officers turned in their paperwork.
Wow.
I mean, getting police officers who are going to risk their life under guys like this, guys that lay down on their belly and put their hand, you're not going to get police officers that want to work for that guy.
No.
Because it's a shitty job. I'm not, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Being a cop is not rewarding. Like, the funny part is everybody calls 911 when they need a cop, And then when a cop's like not in a 911 emergency and maybe he pulls you over for, you know, something or your taillight out or whatever, now all of a sudden he's like the worst thing you've ever seen.
Right.
But let's look at a city without cops and see what that's like. And I think Minneapolis might be the experiment.
I heard they had sheriff's department still though.
Yeah, well, the sheriffs are nervous too, because I mean, if you're gonna defund the police, like, different municipalities do it different ways. So like, if you need, you know, new body armor and it's like in the budget for, you know, that year, and you go and it's just a purchase, it's just done. If they defund that, and now all of a sudden your new officers come in and they're like, hey, where's my body armor? And they're like, oh, it's not in the budget.
Sorry.
Sorry, buddy, you're going raw dog out there with no body armor, and mine's 5 years old, so, you know, whatever. I mean, it's a really sad state of affairs when you have Democrats they've proven that they can't run a city.
No.
And now they're proving that they're going to try to really not run a city and just let the people just go apeshit crazy. And I mean, that's not going to work either.
Just like, I mean, the Minnesota government, the governor's a Democrat. The Minneapolis city mayor is a Democrat.
All of them. I mean,
and they want to blame Republicans for a Democrat-run city. I don't understand.
They've been entrenched. The whole justice, their little local justice system, the judges, like, they're all involved. The police unions that defended Chauvin, I mean, they're all Democrats. Like, this is the Democrat way to run things, and it works to a certain extent. It's almost like there's a tipping point. So, like, they love the state of chaos, because when there's chaos, you need Democrats. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're going to run in and fix things. There's inequality over here, and there's racism over there, and we got the magic button. But the reality is when it gets to that tipping point and they lose control, they don't have a plan. Right. And we're watching it unfold. Like, they have no plan other than, oh, I got it, let's defund the police. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. Totally ridiculous.
Well, let's take a look at ridiculous. We have some people washing the feet of other members. Let's take a look and see what's going on.
Yeah, this is pandering.
On behalf of Caucasian people. It's all people.
All of our white race, and then we've just heard about one race in all of humanity. But Lord, we stand here, Lord, confessing, repenting, Lord, for our aggression. Lord, repenting for our pride, for thinking that we are better, that we are above. Lord, we repent, we stand here.
I don't know what's going on there.
Honestly, there's no way to get law and order back when you have your cops and, you know, washing people's feet and kneeling and doing all these things, because the work that they do is really ugly work, and it's not about, you know, these feelings. Like, when you call 911, the feelings involved are fear. So, like, you call 911, you want a confident enforcement officer to show up and help you. Now, if your house is on fire, you know what I mean? Like, you want a competent force of firemen that know exactly what to do and are going to put out the fire. You know, you don't want some kind of administrator of fire safety to show up and be like, yeah, you kind of blew that one. Your grill was way too close to your overhang. You don't want to hear that. You want the guys that do the job. Right. So the weird thing is that all this pandering of these guys, like, laying on their belly and, like, washing people's feet and stuff like that, it's not what you want to see from the guys that are running to help you and be in charge and kind of, like, make a situation that's terrible into something that's, you know, recoverable. Because, I mean, You call cops when things get to a point where you are definitely scared and you're probably not ready to handle it. Right. So, like, I don't want these people that are washing feet showing up when I call 911. I don't want those.
No, I don't want them at all. No, we don't want them at all. And then also, meanwhile, in England, it's gone crazy too. Of course, all over the world has gone crazy. Let's take a look at England.
Bottles. Total loss of control.
Run, Piggy, run!
All right, there we go. Run, Piggy, run, they were saying.
There's no way to establish order that way. Like, you blew it. It's terrible.
They can't wear guns either. In England, they don't.
No. And that's actually what, Minneapolis is talking about that. They're looking at that model of European-style policing as a model that will work in cities. Now, I'm not saying that, the Second Amendment is bad, but there are definitely more armed people, okay, in the United States. For the law enforcement officers to not have the tools that maybe respond to an armed person makes zero sense. And I know, like, Keith Ellison is just like, well, if he has a weapon, he's going to want to use it, all these things. But, like, I carry a weapon every day in Pennsylvania, and I don't want to use it. I carry it because I don't want to, but I also know that there are situations where it's not going to be a phone call away the help for me. So guess what?
I was wondering where Keith Ellison went, because he was the leader of the Democratic National Committee at one point.
Yeah, he was.
And then I was wondering where he disappeared to. So he disappeared to be Attorney General of Minnesota.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be Attorney General of the United States if.
Oh my God! Don't say it.
So we got Biden. So we have one more video here tonight. We got to show this before we leave.
Yeah.
We're crunched on time, so I'm going to play this. It's very, very, very critical to hear this. Let's take a look. He's on The View. Here he goes.
7 women accuse you of touching them without their permission. Are you sorry for what you did? Are you prepared to apologize to those women?
Look, here's the deal. I am so, like, for example, I actually thought in my head when I walked out here. I mean... I know we're friends.
It's tricky.
No, but I should be able to read better. But I have never in my life done anything in approaching a woman that has been other than trying to bring solace. I'm used to, like one of your staff was. I think it's really important we listen. Whether I sit down next to somebody and it's not invited to sit down. So. That's my responsibility. I have to be more aware, and it's totally legitimate. But anyway, I think it's legitimate, and I think it is, and to anyone. But I don't think anyone's ever said.
But they have also said we'd like an apology.
Well, look, I'm really sorry if they.
Nancy Pelosi wants you to say, "I'm sorry that I invaded your space."
Sorry, I invaded your space. I mean, I'm sorry this happened. Yeah. But I'm not sorry in the sense that, look, I was. Anyway.
Well, here's your opportunity right now to just say you apologize, you're sorry. I think we can clean this up right now.
Well, by the way, I did. I understand.
Right. Yeah.
We haven't. There's so much more work to do to figure out how. The one important thing I know. Well. I tell you what the deal was. I did not what I didn't want to do, and I didn't want to quote invade her space. I didn't want to get in a situation where this became And then when I heard all this about and it was legitimate, expecting a call every time the phone rang. And so I spoke to some leading women advocates in this area who saw someone knew her.
Oh, wow. I mean, unbelievable.
Those neurons are not firing. There is something. He did not answer the question. He just kept yammering. It was terrible.
Think if he was president. Oh my gosh.
Terrible. I mean, the women of the View, their looks were like stone cold. Like, really?
And that wasn't doctored at all.
Unbelievable. And this is the vote blue no matter who. I mean, yeah. If he's my no matter who, sorry man, I'm keeping Trump. I'm gonna let him recover this economy, because I mean, honestly, some parts of this country are really starting to ramp back up. So I do have faith in what he's gonna do, and I hope that most people come around. It's really cool to see that, you know, some of the black communities that were ravaged by this stuff, by these, you know, these riots, are kind of pissed off that they really did want to peacefully protest, and then Antifa came in and smashed and broke and burned and made them look like idiots. And they're really pissed about it. And that's a good thing, because it takes them from the left. And then all of a sudden they go, well, I can't vote with those guys. So, I mean, it may swing. I mean, I love it.
Yep. We'll see what happens. So that's the show tonight. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you subscribe. Any last words, Bill? I know you've been talking, but any last words?
My last words are still, I think people need to be vigilant. There are some things that are still happening. There's small bands of people that it may not look like a riot. It may look like 20, 30 people, but they're throwing rocks at cars on overpasses. I mean, I'm speaking on Philadelphia, but I don't know about other cities, but they're still trying to incite like this chaos, and they're still here. So they're trying to keep it going. So it's not time to like let your guard down. Like, you know, you could be driving on a highway. If you see a group of, you know, 20, 30 people, I mean, be prepared, because they're still trying this stuff.
Yep. So be safe out there, everybody, and good night.
Have a good night.